On the first day of Christmas, Turkey gave to me a fight between AJ and a partridge in a pear tree. What's happening, people? Let me know how I'm sounding. We're going to have to watch the connection on this one because I am staying in a different place, which does have Starlink, but I'm looking at the stream health and it's a bit schizophrenic, so please let me know if there's any issues. I'll try and do whatever I can to resolve it. It appears to be relatively stable at the moment, but as I say, before I unmuted my mic, it was looking a little schizophrenic. As far as the title, I just basically pressed stream and sorted out all the details, because basically when you've done a stream, YouTube saves all the settings from the previous stream. So yeah, you're supposed to go in there and change the thumbnail and change the title, but I just did it after the fact. It is what it is. Shout out to everyone in the live chat. Let me know how you're feeling. Are you grooving? This Christmas Eve, we got Dominica in the place, Harry, Striker, big up Striker, KO Talk, Arcane Code, DJ Warts, we got Hamed, we got Wave, we got Rich Franklin, we got David Fisher, we got Majestica, Title, Supersized Fries, we got Mr. G-Man, Liam Goff, big up, big up. Salute every time. Linkage in the place. Quato. We got Where's Carlos? I always like that name. I'm Mark, Derek Clark, Gifter Reed, Mark Odell. We got Sean, we got Lexio. We got Devons. Kayvon Green, what's up, Quato? People liking the Partridge Carol. And a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah, Luke versus Femi. Is this fight going to happen? I think it will, as long as neither one of them slips up. If they're taking an interim fight, I reckon it happens. There you go. Derek Clark says low-hanging fruit. Big up Joe, Majestica. Big up Matt Borgerson. Yes, happy holidays, Matt Borgerson, every time. The Asha Lasha. That is Tyson Fury, or Luke Partridge as we call him in these parts. Shout out to Matt. It's a partridge in a pear tree. I started off this stream with a Christmas carol, getting into the festive spirit. On the first day of Christmas, Turkey gave to me a fight between AJ and a partridge in a pear tree. Shout out to Matt Early with a super chat. He says, why does Etiti, I guess you meant, who's the guy that our college just fought? Tete. I guess you meant Tete. That dude will never win against anybody. He has to be 50. There's no possible way he's 35. Yeah, I've got 100% agree with you. There's no way he's 35. I'm not sure what kind of paydays he's getting, though. I don't think he's getting a lot. I doubt he's getting a lot, Matt. But yeah, he keeps getting wheeled out. But it's always been like that. You know, they used to call back in the days when the United States was the epicenter of boxing. They used to call certain journeymen who they'd always recycle circuit journeymen. Guys that get recycled for prospects and this one and that one. Circuit journeyman. And Tete, for whatever reason, has become a circuit journeyman for British heavyweights. I don't think he's getting that much. In fact, that's probably why they keep bringing him back. Because he's cheap. So shout out to Matt every time. Big up. The realist says, Hatman, how'd you have AJ being weight drained for 245? It's super easy for a man of that size. I didn't say AJ was weight drained. You must not have heard me when I was talking about it. I said, I asked it as a question. Is he going to be drained? Can he make that weight? And how would you know what's super easy for a man of that size? Are you a heavyweight boxer? I am. I competed at heavyweight in the amateurs for years. And when you reach that age, it can be extremely difficult to lose even a few pounds when you've been boxing in the 250s. So for me, it was an open question. I wasn't saying AJ is going to be drained. I said, has he made the weights, healthily? Is he going to be drained? Well, you don't think fighters can get drained at that age? Of course they can. Riddick Bowe in the Andrew Golota rematch was totally drained. Riddick Bowe was only, I think, 28 when he had that fight. He was totally drained in that fight. Lost far too much weight. And he basically got down to the same weight that he was against Holyfield, which was, I think, 235. But he fought Holyfield when he was maybe 25. The Golota fight maybe happened when he was in his late 20s. It was only, 3 or 4 years between the two fights, but Riddick Bowe just couldn't make that weight healthily anymore. Couldn't do it. So yeah, it was an open question for me. Is AJ gonna make, if he can get down to that, because anyone can get down to any weight, but can you do it and still be strong and healthy? That's the question. And regardless of all that, I predicted the fight exactly as it played out. Did I not? I said that the fight would go rounds. I said AJ would start relatively cautiously. So the proof is in the pudding. The way I predicted the fight is literally exactly how it played out. I said it would go 6 or 7 rounds. So there you go. Big up TG for the super chat. He says, oh, retracted message. Not sure why that was retracted, but big up TG for the super chat. Big up Matt. He says, I want to speak to people who got KO'd by him. Well, apparently Tete is a debt collector in Ghana. So, he might have KO'd a few people over some unpaid debts. Because I'm sure in Ghana you get into some crazy scrapes when trying to collect debts. Shout out to Divans for the super chat. He says, Hatman, after the AJ loss, I think it's about time Jake Paul hopped on the Z train. He did start the internet boxing stuff after all. Is he still alive, Charlie Z? Is he still about? Where is Charlie Z? Big up Ocean Blue for the super chat. Says, yes, Hatman, a partridge in a pear tree. There you go. And big up the person in the Element group who posted this picture, because I got it from my Element group. Shout out to the person who it looks like it's done by AI or whatever. So shout out to the person who put that together. Why am I not seeing the viewer activity in my UI here? Do I have to open a new tab already? Come on, Firefox, don't do me like that. I'm not seeing the viewer activity. I like to keep up with the super chat so I can acknowledge everybody and not miss anyone. As and when. Let's open up a new tab real quick. Shout out to everyone in the live chat. Hope you're feeling good. Somebody says Dave Allen is back. Yeah, who's he fighting? I saw Dave Allen post a video saying that a new fight of his has been announced. Who's he fighting? Big up Matt Borgerson. He says, would you give Jake Paul a chance in a Fury rematch? I'd definitely give him a chance. Against Tommy Fury, we're talking about, obviously. Yeah, I'd definitely give him a chance. I mean, he's been more active than Tommy Fury. He's been fighting, obviously, better opposition than Tommy Fury. We'll see what it's like when he recovers from this broken jaw, So, yeah, I'd definitely give him a chance. I mean, the first fight was very close. So, yeah, for sure he's got a chance. Ricky Red says, Dave Allen, the comedian, was so overrated. Big up Ricky Red. Marco Del says, Akoli previously said Tete was a joke opponent for White. To be fair, I don't think Akoli wanted to fight Tete. He actually wanted to fight Dylan White, but Dylan White turned the fight down for that money. I mean, Dylan White admitted it. He admitted he weren't going to fight Akoli for the money that they offered him, whatever that money was. So, before we get into some boxing talk, and we can talk about whatever, you know how the night flights go. You can talk about any topics you guys want to get into. But before we talk a little bit of boxing here, mainly Partridge and AJ, that potential fight happening. Somebody asked a question about the new Avatar movie. I have seen it. Let me just switch up the visuals real quick. Since this is a night flight, let me just drag it into here. So there's the poster. Yes, I did see the new Avatar movie, Fire and Ash. In fact, it should be called Take Fire Out of It. Think of a substitute word for fire, but something in trash. Because this movie was trash. By far and away the worst of the Avatar movies. The second movie weren't great. The first movie was by far the best. The reason that these Avatar movies, some people didn't like the first movie, and that's fair enough. Different strokes for different folks, but I liked the first movie. Particularly watching it at the cinema in 3D, I thought James Cameron built an amazing world with Avatar. Not like the story was original or anything, but the world that he built, and for the most part, the performances were all cool. And it was a coherent story. The problem with the second and third movies, or one of the main problems, is they've become so convoluted. Do you know what I mean? Just so convoluted in the story and the plot, and it's just... Okay, we're having some connection issue for a second there. Turbulence. Okay, we're back on flight. We're back on track. It was just so convoluted that and bloated. These movies, the second and third movies, were so long. I mean, the first movie was long, but again, because it was world building, you were learning new things about Pandora and all that kind of stuff, and it just had a certain magic about it, that first movie. But the third, for me, by far the worst. Shocking movie. Star Fox says sound fine this end. All right. As long as the sound is fine, even if the visuals are a little choppy, we'll keep pushing. But yeah, so I saw the movie Avatar Fire and Ash, and I thought it was absolute trash. Seriously, absolute trash. I mean, Avatar might have been one of them movies where you're better off one and done. Do you know what I mean? Rather than turning... I mean, I understand it's business at the end of the day. So it's hardly surprising that they turned it into a thing, but it might have been better off as a one and done. Do you know what I mean? There you go. Big up Matt Borgerson, firing ass. I'll just say firing trash. Shout out to Where's Carlos. Did I fight any amateurs that made it as a pro? Made it as in became really successful as a pro? No. No one that won any world titles or anything like that, no. But big up Where's Carlos. Big up Matt. Big up Devons. He says, Julian Jackson versus Ernie Shavers. Who you got? Well, Ernie Shavers all day. Julian Jackson really was a light middleweight / middleweight. So definitely Ernie Shavers. And as far as who hits harder pound for pound, I'd say Ernie Shavers too. Big up Devons. Big up DJ for the super chat. He says, Hatman, have you seen the footage of Judge Victor Loughlin's reaction to Callum Simpson getting knocked out by Troy Williamson and his scorecard? Yes, I have. So let's just switch up the visuals real quick. Just put it on normal night flight for now. Yes, I did see the reaction. It looked crazy. All right. On Fight Disciples with Adam Cattrall, he played the footage and they were like, what on earth is going on here? Because Victor Loughlin basically had his head in his hands when Callum Simpson went down. And the inference, what people are reading into it, is that he was desperate for Callum Simpson to win. And this guy's a judge. you know? And he had a scorecard which was, in many people's view, very generous to Callum Simpson. Now, I've seen Paul Smith on Sam & Jordan's podcast kind of defend Victor Loughlin, and he said that he thinks Victor Loughlin's reaction wasn't because he wanted Callum Smith to win. It was because Callum Simpson, wasn't because he wanted Callum Simpson to win. It was because the fight wasn't stopped early enough. That's what Paul Smith is saying. He thinks that Victor Loughlin reacted that way because it was like, oh no, he's, getting knocked out badly here because it should have been stopped earlier. Bear in mind, Victor Loughlin is also a referee, he's not just a judge. So that's Paul, and Paul Smith apparently is cool with Victor Loughlin. So that's him defending his friend. That's what he thinks. What do you guys think? Do you think that's cap? Or do you think that's, plausible? Big up DJ for the super chat. Shout out to Matt Borgerson. He says they moved into straight DEI compared to the first movie that explored an indigenous culture and how a stranger indoctrinated that life. Yes, exactly. That first one, on an archetypal level, on a hero's journey, it was basically the hero's journey again, right? And there's something that resonates about the first movie. But the second and third movies were just a convoluted mess. There was no magic to them. But for me, again, the second movie is still a bit better than the third, but the third movie is just absolute garbage, bro. Miss it. Don't bother watching it. It's horrible. I plan to see another movie, which hopefully isn't quite as horrible as Avatar Fire and Ash, although it might still be terrible. And that is the Anaconda reboot or remake, however you want to describe it, with Jack Black. Yeah, I'm going to subject myself to that movie. The original one starred Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, and some other people. This one has got Jack Black and a bunch of middle-aged Hollywood guys in it. We'll see how it goes. Big up Charles B in the chat. Big up Charles B every time. Shout out to Matt Bogerson. Shout out to Filthy Casual Boxing. He says, hi, Hatman. Reading Nigel Benn's book at the moment. I'm wondering how you think Ben would have done against Tony Jones, Hagler Hearns, Duran. Okay, so I read Nigel Benn's book. Was it biography or I think autobiography. And very interesting. He was a very troubled individual, like emotionally troubled. He linked a lot of it down to the death of his older brother, which happened when he was young, because he looked up to his older brother like a hero. Hero worshipped him, and he ended up dying in, let's just say, suspicious circumstances, according to Nigel. And yeah, throughout his book, it's, I'm not sure if it's the same book you've read, but the one I read back in the day, it's an old book. It's just full of Nigel basically womanizing, drinking, taking drugs, and crying a lot. Do you know what I mean? The book is like him crying, contemplating unaliving himself, drinking, drugs, DJing, partying, and occasionally having a fight. So, yeah, it's quite an interesting book. As far as how I think he would have done against Tony Jones, Hagler Hearns, Duran, I give him a much better chance against Hearns and Duran than I give him against the rest of them. Tony had a rock jaw, but he was very, ill-disciplined, James Toney. But at 168, he was pretty damn formidable when he was on that run. So I'd take James Toney over Nigel Benn at 168 or 160. Hagler, I'd take Hagler over Ben, but I think it's a competitive fight. I don't think Hagler goes in there and blasts Ben out the way that he did with Tommy Hearns. Even though Nigel Benn was known for being a little fragile, his heart was so massive and he was so dangerous when he was hurt that, and he could box a bit, Nigel Benn as well. People forget that. Ben against Hearns, that's a real interesting fight. That's definitely a shootout. I'm not even sure who I'll go for. On one day I might say Ben, on another day I might say Hearns, because Hearns' real best weight was 154. Yeah, he did beat Dennis Andrews at 175 for the light heavyweight title, but 168 against Nigel Benn, I don't know, man. Yeah, one day I'd say, because again, Ben beat Gerald McClellan. Now, Gerald McClellan wasn't as good a boxer as Tommy Hearns, but similar size, right? And a much better chin and a tremendous puncher himself. But definitely not as good a boxer as Hearns. Not as fast, not as dynamic, but much tougher. And Ben obviously beat him. He wouldn't need to land as many on Tommy Hearns to beat him as he had to land on McClellan. But as I say, it's not necessarily that straightforward. Hearns was a lot faster than McClellan, better boxer, better jab. You know, McClellan had a great jab too, but Hearns was just more consistent with his jab and whatnot. So, not sure about Ben and Hearns, but Ben and Duran, I would pick Nigel Benn to beat Roberto Duran. And one of the reasons I say that is because, again, Duran, his best years were at lightweight. So fighting Nigel Benn, that's a super middleweight. And of course, there's that famous sparring footage. And if you've seen the full sparring footage, for anyone that knows what they're looking at, it's clear that Nigel Benn was actually holding back in that sparring footage out of respect for Duran. Out of respect. At certain points, he turned it on a bit, and Duran almost started to look overwhelmed. Maybe Duran was out of shape during the spar, I'm not sure, but there are some people in the comments, I guess big Duran fans, and I'm, you know, somebody who's a massive admirer of Roberto Duran, but there are some people delusional, you know, in the comments saying, oh, Duran clearly was allowing Nigel to do this to it. I mean, give it a rest. Do you know who Roberto Duran is? He's not the kind of guy that allows anyone to do anything to him. So no, he was basically getting pieced up in that spar by Nigel. And it was Nigel that was out of respect, holding back a little bit at certain points. Okay, didn't want to go too far in that spar. But when I saw the way that their styles kind of meshed together and the speed of Nigel Benn with the size and all that, I was like, I'd pick Nigel Benn in a fight with Duran. Again, bear in mind, Duran's best years were, well, I say best years, his prime was really at lightweight. That's the best version of Duran, lightweight Duran. And he did great things moving up through the weights too, but he goes down as one of the greatest lightweights of all time. So it's incredible what Roberto Duran achieved against much bigger men. But yeah, big up Filthy Casual Boxing. I'll go for Nigel Benn against Duran, maybe against Hearns, but the others, I'd take them over Nigel Benn. Big up for the super chat. Big up John Hendricks for the super chat. Much respect, my bro. Oh, wow. So Matt is telling me do not see the Anaconda reboot. It's the worst reboot he's ever seen. Damn, what, worse than the third Avatar movie? Matt is warning me not to waste my money. What else is there to see? I mean, I didn't expect it to be great, but I thought it might be, you know, 90 minutes of silly fun. But according to Matt, nope, avoid at all costs. You know, speaking of Jack Black, he was actually in the X-Files. There was a lot of actors who went on to be really successful in Hollywood that featured in the X-Files when they were young. Ryan Reynolds was in the X-Files in one episode. You also had the guy, I forget his name now. Do you know like the main, God, I can't think of the guy's name. He's like the main evil guy, not the military guy. The guy that's always in the office or whatever, however you want to describe it, in the control center in the Avatar movies. What's that actor's name? The one that's always in the control center. Anyone know that actor's name? He's a pretty famous actor, American guy. That's right, Quato. Yes, Jack Black in the X-Files, the guy who controlled electricity. Yeah, the guy who controlled electricity is the guy I'm thinking of. It wasn't Jack Black that controlled electricity. He was his friend. Yeah, Jack Black and that other guy from Avatar were in the same episode of the X-Files. That's right. The guy could control lightning and electricity. Yeah, that's right. Big up Charles B. He says, will you watch The Odyssey? Is that the Chris Nolan movie? People are saying his name is Josh Sully. Is that his name? It don't sound right. Well, maybe it is. No, not Jake Sully. No. I'm not talking about the guy that plays the main character. No. The guy who's always in the control center. He's like the evil corporate guy. I can't know. I'm not sure of the actor's name, but he was in that episode of the X-Files with Jack Black. Nah, I've never got into Peaky Blinders. I did try and watch the Frankenstein movie a few times, but it just bored me somehow. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but I don't know, man. I just couldn't. It didn't grip me. It didn't keep me interested. I just kept switching it off. Maybe the atmosphere is not to my liking or something. I don't know. Just weren't doing it for me. Big up Real. God, I'm struggling to pronounce that name. I'll just call you Real, my good sir. He says, what are your thoughts on the Tate fight? Okay, so a lot of people are really weighing in on Tate because he talks a lot of trash. I'm the ultimate man. And, he's very hyperbolic with the stuff he says about himself. And people see this as an opportunity to, pile on. He wasn't an amazing kickboxer, but that is his sport. Okay. Boxing was never his sport. Whenever I would see Tate hit pads in his mansion and spar with his brother and friends and stuff like that, he always looked terrible to me. I remember a year or so ago, there was talk of Tate fighting Jake Paul, and there were people that turned up in the live streams of mine at the time saying, what do you think about Tate against Paul? And I said, Jake Paul knocked Andrew Tate out. Like, Andrew Tate's terrible at boxing. And there was a bunch of Tate fans saying, no way, Top G destroys Jake Paul. Well, I don't think so. Top G might have been like an okay kickboxer back in the days, but as a boxer, he sucks, bro. His chin's always up in the air. Like his reactions to punches. Like when you're looking for someone's competence with regards to boxing, you want to see the way they react when punches are thrown at them. Yeah. Tate puts his arms out in front of him and his chin goes up in the air. I mean, like to an extreme extent. That is so novice-y, because that's like a reflexive thing, which people that don't have a background in boxing tend to do when punches are thrown at them. Even Chase Damore was doing that. I mean, when he started off boxing, his first fight, I can't remember who it was against, but his chin, he would like wade forward with his chin in the air. It was crazy. But Tate still has that, because in kickboxing, you're blocking kicks. So you can put your arms up and block people's kicks and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of his reactions are more tailored towards defending yourself in kickboxing rather than defending yourself in boxing. So I don't know what people were expecting, but to me, he was always going to be a terrible boxer. Chase Damore, though, also a diabolically bad boxer. And I thought maybe Tate might be able to beat someone that diabolically bad, but I think Damore's just size and physical strength was enough, you know, along with Tate being pretty damn terrible himself from a technical perspective. Yeah, just Chase Damore's youth and his size was able to get the job done. So it was what it was. It was a horrible fight. But again, I don't know what people expected. Did they expect Tate to go in there and look like Muhammad Ali? I'm not sure. If you've ever seen that guy on the pads or sparring in his mansion, he's always looked terrible at boxing. Big up James Clifford for the super chat. He says, I think you mean Giovanni Ribisi. Let me look it up. I think that's the guy. Giovanni Ribisi. Yes, that is who I'm talking about. Okay, so he's an Italian American then. Yes, Giovanni Ribisi is the guy I'm talking about. He was in the X-Files with Jack Black in an episode where Giovanni Ribisi's character was able to control lightning. It's a good episode. Check it out if you ain't seen it. X-Files, for those who don't know, is my favorite television series of all time. I still watch it even now. I got a box set and all that. Big up the Bobs for the super chat. It says Luke equals paper, Wilder equals rock, AJ equals scissors. Interesting. All right, big up James Clifford, big up the Bobs. That's very interesting. Let's look into that here. We'll get the appropriate visuals on screen. So, Ring Magazine, according to a voters poll on their WhatsApp channel, 62% think that AJ would beat Partridge. Okay. Now, boxing is rock, paper, scissors. It is styles make fights. Only casuals don't realize that. The vast majority of us here who are, hardcore boxing fans, we know that styles make fights. Be that as it may, I lean towards Partridge in that fight against AJ still. Not because Partridge is physically better preserved than AJ, because it's probably the other way around, but because Partridge has proven himself to be a better big occasion fighter than AJ. Partridge blows hot and cold. In fights, he can look terrible against lesser opposition, but when the heat is on and he has to step it up, he turns up. He never shows up in a fight and looks apprehensive or, not all the way there. When it's a big fight, that is, when he's supposed to turn up. He always brings his A game. Now, his A game weren't enough against Usyk, but it's Usyk, folks. Like, Usyk is a fantastic fighter. But you look at the difference between when Partridge fought Ngannou and when he fought Usyk. The level of performance he brought to the table in those fights was absolutely massive. Like, the difference in performance. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, Partridge is one of those guys who fights to the level of the opposition. He's one of those people. So, I think going up against AJ, I reckon it's a competitive fight. I'm not saying he goes in there and smokes AJ, but just because of his career as a better big occasion fighter, I would lean towards Partridge winning that fight. But, maybe AJ goes in there, rediscovers his left hook, because he used to have a great left hook, and knocks Partridge out. Partridge has been down plenty of times. I think he's been down more times than AJ, hasn't he? Although he's never been knocked out, never been stopped, AJ has. Big up Mark Hatch. He says, I watched Sinners and Weapons recently. Yeah, they're both decent movies. there's a lot of people, particularly in the black community, who are really very impressed by Sinners. Well, I'm a member of the black community, folks. I didn't think it was that great. It was okay, but maybe it was more younger people who haven't thought about certain concepts. And so the concepts in Sinners really blew them away. Whereas I'm a lot older and, you know, I've thought about and seen various concepts and, you know, allegorical tales and all that kind of stuff a gazillion times over. So to me, it was like, okay. Also, I saw From Dusk Till Dawn back in the days, and basically Saints and Sinners is like, not Saints and Sinners, Sinners, excuse me, is basically the story from Dusk Till Dawn. The Quentin Tarantino was involved in that movie, but I'm not sure if he was the only, no, I don't think he was the only person. Was he the producer or was he the actual director? I forget now. Shout out to Kylie. He says Top G deserves an F for ability. Now, going back to this poll, right? Ring Magazine poll regarding who wins between AJ and Partridge. According to Ring Magazine WhatsApp group members, 62% of them are saying AJ beats Partridge. How much of that is down to their dislike for Partridge? And how much of it is down to their knowledge of boxing? And look, at the end of the day, anyone, even if they have never seen a boxing match in their life, has got a 50% chance of getting a boxing prediction right. You find out whether someone really knows what they're looking at over the long haul, right? When you see a pattern of correct predictions for the most part. So look, you know, Partridge could go in there and beat AJ. But how many of those people, this is what I mean to say, let me rephrase my statement. What I mean to say is, how many of those people picking AJ over Partridge are casuals, and how many of them are actually people that know their stuff? I don't know. I'm just asking it as an open question. Maybe there's a lot of people that know their stuff that are picking AJ over Partridge. Maybe they see something in AJ's style. Maybe they're looking at the fact that Partridge has been kind of shying away from that fight through much of his career. Not all of his career. There were moments, I think, when Partridge was looking to fight it, but to fight AJ, but for a lot of his career, he didn't seem particularly keen on it. So maybe they see something in that. Maybe they see something going all the way back to the sparring session that they had where Partridge admitted that AJ beat him up. And they think that AJ, for whatever reason, stylistically has got Partridge's number. The point I'm making is I can't help but think that, you know, 62% of people picking AJ over Partridge, an element of that, an element of those people have got to be people that just can't stand Partridge and their wishful thinking. I'm not saying all of them. Maybe some of them, you know, will be proven to be right. And they've looked at the styles, they've broken it down objectively, and they're picking AJ over Partridge. Yeah, for sure. There might be some people like that, but Partridge is so dislikable at this point. I could understand why people are picking AJ primarily for that reason. Do you know what I mean? Robert says, David Haye knows his stuff and keeps getting it wrong. Well, David Haye is a special case. Yeah, David Haye is I've never seen anyone, either someone who knows their stuff that's actually boxed or someone that's never boxed. I've never seen anyone get so many boxing predictions wrong as David Haye. It's literally a phenomenon because, as I said earlier on, even if you've never seen a boxing match before in your life, you've got a 50% chance of getting a prediction right. The fact that David Haye gets the vast majority of his predictions wrong, like statistically, it's so unlikely that you would get, I don't know, 70% of your predictions wrong in boxing or 80%. Like, it's statistically highly improbable, but somehow David Haye manages to do it. So God knows what that's all about. God knows how David Haye manages to defy the odds by, predicting fights at maybe what, a 30% rate of success? Crazy. Big up Gaz for the super chat. He says, will Jalilov run the division post Usyk? I used to think he was nailed on, not to run the division to the same extent as Usyk, but I always thought Jalilov would be a world champion and he'd be maybe one of the top 3 guys. But at this stage of the game, I'm starting to doubt it because he seems uncommittal when it comes to professional boxing. And I don't understand why. Ever since they introduced this thing where pros can go back into the amateurs and keep, fighting in the Olympics, that's what Jalilov's been doing. He hasn't been committing himself to professional boxing. He's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I really don't know what he's doing. But it's very disappointing because Jalilov has got so much ability. He's a great puncher. He can box, but maybe he's hiding something. Maybe in his heart, he doesn't feel like he's suited to the pros. Maybe that's why there's this hesitance on his part to fully commit to the professional code. Maybe he's hiding weaknesses, which I'm sure some of you guys have spotted. Maybe I'm trying to blank them out of my mind because I want to see another, big punching heavyweight rise to the top. Maybe that's what I'm doing there. But I think he's got a lot of potential. But, I did say when he fought Joe Joyce in the amateurs way back in the days that there were some worrying signs in that fight because he looked like he wanted to quit. I don't think he got knocked down in the fight, but you know how Joyce fights. Joyce was applying the pressure. And yeah, Jalilov just didn't look like he wanted to be there. So that was concerning. It was when Jalilov was relatively young. I think he might have been 20 or something, early 20s. But still, it wasn't a good look. Big up Gaz. What do you think though, Gaz? Do you reckon Jalilov can be top 3 in the heavyweight division? Or, I mean, he's in his 30s now. Big up James Clifford for the super chat. He says, all I want for Christmas is Usyk, AJ, Wilder, and Partridge to retire. It's time for boxing to move on to the next generation. Wardley versus Dubois, please. Wardley versus Dubois is low-key an absolute banger of a matchup. Like, that is low-key an absolute banger. Like, how can that not end in a knockout? Do you know what I mean? You think about the styles, you think about the personalities. I'm talking about the in-the-ring personalities. Do you know what I mean? How can that not end in a knockout? Or Dubois quitting again? Either Dubois knocks Wardley out, or Wardley makes Dubois quit, or knocks Wardley out. I mean, that is just an absolute banger. So for the next generation, yeah, that's a great fight. And those are two guys who are kind of at the older end of the next generation. Dubois, I think, is still in his 20s, might be 28. Wardley now is 30 or 31. So they're kind of like the older guys in the new generation. But yeah, if they were to have a face-off in the ring, that'd be a fantastic fight. I'd love to see that. And the winner of that against Moses? What? Now you're cooking on gas. Yes. That is what we want to see. Big up UTD for the super chat. He says, I do feel AJ always comes across more confident and relaxed when he's fighting guys he's sparred before. Maybe that will come into play for the Fury fight. That is a great observation. United. UTD United. That's a great observation. Because AJ had obviously sparred Wallin before, and he'd apparently handled Wallin easily in sparring. This was according to Richie Woodall, who witnessed the sparring. And AJ went into that Wallin fight with a level of relaxation and confidence that we hadn't seen for years. Now, he only sparred Partridge once, to my knowledge. So, yeah, while it's possible he'll go into the Partridge fight with a level of confidence because he sparred him before and did well against him, he didn't have as much experience sparring Partridge as he had sparring Wallin. Do you know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of pent-up animosity there from AJ towards Partridge, and I think the animosity he has for Partridge might actually help him to overcome some of the nerves. Because when it comes to AJ and Dubois, I didn't have any, despite that little handbags pre-fight where Dubois was saying, "You don't intimidate me," and all that, and AJ was saying, "You're just a little boy," and all that stuff. I don't think there was any animosity from AJ towards Dubois, And he sparred Dubois before, of course, right? Apparently got chinned by Dubois in sparring. And in the fight, he got chinned too. So maybe it's more accurate to say AJ's confident against guys he's done well against in sparring. Because there are some guys he didn't do well against in sparring. But certainly Otto Wallin was somebody he did. But big up United for the super chat. Much appreciated, sir. I hope you and your loved ones, friends are enjoying the festive season. Shout out to everyone joining the live. Big up, big up. Great to have you here. Big up Fernie G says, Hatman, what do you make of the rumor of AJ versus Verhoeven? I don't think I've seen Verhoeven fight. I understand that he's a kickboxer, but I don't think I've seen him fight. I heard that he sparred Partridge quite a bit, but yeah, I'm not aware that I've seen him fight. But at this stage of the game, I don't think you really need to be messing around with tune-up fights. I don't think you need to be messing around with that because that's when disaster can happen. We know AJ's vulnerable. He's been chinned a bunch of times now. I remember back in the days when they were looking to set up a fight between Lennox Lewis and Tommy Morrison. And Tommy Morrison took a tune-up fight before his proposed showdown. In fact, the fight was signed with him and Lewis. It was already signed. He took a tune-up fight against a guy called Michael Bent. Michael Bent was a good amateur in the US. He was actually born in the UK. I think he's originally from Dulwich, but he was raised in the United States in Brooklyn or the Bronx in New York City. And he was a good amateur, Michael Bent, but as a pro, he was no great shakes. And so he goes in there against Tommy Morrison, and Michael Bent had a really weak chin, by the way, as did Morrison, right? He was known for being vulnerable, Morrison, particularly after that Ray Mercer fight. I think prior to the Ray Mercer fight, Morrison's chin was okay, but that Mercer fight cracked his chin. Anyway, long story short, Morrison goes in there against Michael Bent. He's got Bent on the ropes. He appears to be bashing him up, but Bent comes out with a flurry of shots, catches Tommy Morrison, down he goes, a couple more knockdowns, and yeah, Michael Bent pulls off the big upset. And that massive fight with Lennox Lewis goes down the toilet. So when you're dealing with a fighter, particularly a heavyweight who's vulnerable, and you're talking about a fight we've been waiting to see for years and years and years, maybe 10 years, I don't think you really need to be risking anything with tune-up fights at this stage, at least not for AJ, right? You can allow Partridge a tune-up fight because he hasn't had one yet. AJ's just had one against Jake Paul. I don't think AJ needs to be fighting anyone else right now. Okay, he says that he doesn't want to wait until September. Therefore, if you do have a run out against somebody you can't punch. Do you know what I mean? Have a run out against somebody you can't punch. Yeah, AJ has gained a load of followers because of the Jake Paul fight. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Takes part in a joke fight against a YouTuber, and all of a sudden his stock rises in the United States. It's very, very strange. Big up Luca. He says, put them on the Wilder Usyk undercard. Yeah, I reckon that'd be a good idea. Ayed says, just watched 28 Years Later. God, I thought it was awful. I would say 28 Years Later was awful in spots, but my overall impression of 28 Years Later is that it was just very, very weird. From start to finish, it was just a weird movie. The whole vibe of the movie was weird. And, you know, you really question Danny Boyle. Is that the director's name? It's Danny Boyle, isn't it? You really question what kind of guy he is for making such a weird movie. Seriously, bro. That movie's proper weird. The vibe and everything and the character, it's just, yeah, very, very odd. Striker says, Partridge needs a safe tune-up too. I think Fury is way more susceptible right now than people think. You could well be right. Big up Atavistic Intellect. He says, Hatman, have you seen Sexy Beast? Ben Kingsley is fantastic in it, in my opinion, very funny. I've heard of that movie. It's a famous movie. Don't think I've ever seen it. Yeah, at the end of 28 Years Later, it's supposed to be like a Savile cult, isn't it? Jim will fix it cult. Yeah, very, very strange. Jewelry, jewelry, jewelry. Good evening, Ben Odom. Great to have you on board. We got my guy Ben Odom in the place. Let's get the Night Flight visuals back up. There was another boxing story or boxing talking point that I wanted to discuss here. It slipped my mind at the moment. Maybe somebody in the live chat can jog my memory. Oh yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about is all the people claiming that the AJ Jake Paul fight was fixed somehow. Which is an extraordinary thing. What I want you to observe is the fact that the vast majority of professional fighters, ex-professional fighters and current pros are saying that the fight was not fixed. And I'm talking from David Adeleye to many of the American, Paulie Malignaggi, Teddy Atlas, who before the fight was saying this could be a fixed fight, but after watching the fight, he was like, nah, I don't think that was fixed. Literally go through, and I'm telling you, the overwhelming majority of people that have actually boxed, pro fighters, trainers, all these people, they're saying after watching that, it was not fixed. The vast majority of people saying it was fixed are people that have never laced up a pair of boxing gloves. Okay, so it's not like one or two guys who are pros or ex-pros that are saying it wasn't fixed. No, it's the vast majority of them that were saying that was not a fixed fight, and AJ didn't carry Jake Paul either. Because Simon Jordan was trying to push that narrative, maybe to defend his prediction, because he was expecting AJ to knock Jake Paul out in a round or two. And in order to defend his prediction, he said, oh, AJ carried him. No, he didn't carry him. The fighters, the vast majority of them are of the view that it wasn't a fixed fight and AJ didn't carry him because they understand the mindset of AJ. They understand that he's a cautious fighter to begin with, and he's coming off a knockout defeat. He's coming off a long layoff. Imagine how embarrassing it would have been for him to get caught with something silly by a YouTuber and get wobbled, or even worse, knocked down or stopped. He was going into the Jake Paul fight, even though it's against the YouTuber and all that, And he would have had doubts in his mind about what's going to happen when he gets cracked on the chin. Just because Jake Paul's a YouTuber doesn't necessarily mean he can't punch. Folks, there are journeymen out there that hit as hard as world champions. Okay? And I think AJ was circumspect in the first couple rounds. He wanted to see how strong Jake Paul was, whether there was any kind of serious power there, anything he needed to be worried about. After the 3 or 4 rounds, he realized, okay, this guy doesn't have anything. And that's when he started to turn the screw. To me, it was very clear what was going on. AJ's a cautious guy, bro. He didn't want to be embarrassed by a flipping YouTuber. That's why he didn't go flying in all guns blazing, because Jake Paul was ready to counter with that right hand. Now, there was somebody in the live chat in a couple of streams I did before the fight who was adamant that Jake Paul can't hurt AJ. I disagreed with him and I said, no, I think Jake Paul can hurt AJ. After what I saw, I was wrong and he was right. Yeah, Jake Paul landed flush on AJ's chin at least twice in the fight, maybe 3 times, and absolutely nothing happened. So whoever that guy was, apologies for forgetting his name, he was correct. Yeah, I thought Jake Paul, particularly at this stage of AJ's career, with maybe deteriorating punch resistance after the Dubois fight, maybe Jake Paul catches him clean, maybe he wobbles AJ. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I didn't think Jake Paul would be able to land clean. I thought AJ had used his experience and whatnot and just slowly pick away at Jake Paul and stop him in, like, you know, maybe 6 or 7 rounds. But he did manage to catch AJ. And like that guy said, Jake Paul did not have the power to hurt him. So he was right about that. I was wrong about that. But yeah, as far as the fight being fixed or AJ carrying Jake Paul, nah, bro. There was no carrying going on. It was just a tentative guy in Anthony Joshua not wanting to be embarrassed against the YouTuber. So he didn't want to do anything silly. You know, just wanted to get Jake Paul at the end of his punches, peck away a little bit, get him worn down, then he'd turn it up, and that's what he did. Big up Simon Brandy for the super chat. He says, if Hatman could have a Misfits fight, who would you love to beat up? My choice would be Keir Starmer. Starmer would definitely be up there as one of my top people to beat up. Starmer would be there. Matt Hancock, Bill Gates. Who else would be up there for my people I'd like to fight in Misfits? You beat me to the Starmer one. Maybe even Sadiq Khan. Is that sadistic? Won't mind fighting Sadiq Khan in a Misfits bout. Big up Simon Brandy for the super chat. Who else wouldn't mind fighting Sadiq Khan? Shout out to Luke. He says, check the name. It's Luke Elgar, not Luke Partridge. Big up Luke Elgar. He said, I'd love to see AJ KO Fury, yet I cannot see AJ doing that now. Yeah, I lean towards Partridge as well, aka Fury. I do lean towards him, but we can't lose sight of the fact that Partridge did get dropped by Francis Ngannou of all people a couple fights back. AJ's a lot better than Ngannou. You know, he's faster, he's got more accurate punching. Okay, he was missing a lot against Jake Paul. That's because Jake Paul was literally legging it, bro. When someone's legging it around the ring, for a big heavyweight like AJ, it's hard to track them and keep up with them and have your feet. Because AJ's not the kind of guy that likes to look sloppy in his work. Okay, he's a guy that likes to look neat. So if he's going to look sloppy, he'd rather hold the shot back than throw it. And after looking sloppy a couple times when he threw shots and was made to miss by a big amount, he thought, let me not do that again. Let me make sure my feet have managed to catch up with him first before I let the shot go. He was a little frustrated by Jake Paul's movement early, I think. The fact he wouldn't stand still. I mean, Lennox Lewis fought a guy early on in his career called Melvin Epps, And he pretty much did the same thing as Jake Paul. I think the fight's on YouTube. Literally ran around the ring, and Lewis was frustrated trying to catch up with him. Go watch that fight. Melvin Epps obviously not a great fighter. Charles B says, Hatman, did you see the YouTuber auditing Britain get attacked? No, I didn't. No, I haven't seen that. I know who Auditing Britain is. During the whole 2020 years, let's just call it that, when you know what was going on, that's when he kind of rose to prominence, Auditing Britain, when he was like challenging police officers and all that kind of stuff. But no, I haven't seen him, the video of him getting attacked. But big up Luke Elgar for the super chat. He sees Partridge beating AJ, as do I. Simon Brandy says, I've seen that he got attacked and arrested for GBH. What? The guy who attacked Auditing Britain got arrested for GBH, or Auditing Britain himself got arrested for GBH? So AJ versus Wardley. I'd like to see the fight. If AJ can get past Partridge, that is, no, not now, because AJ hasn't done anything to warrant a Wardley fight. But if AJ can get past Partridge, yeah, I'd like to see the winner fight Wardley, actually. But would the fight happen if AJ got past Partridge? Because there'd probably be two fights. You know how it goes these days. If AJ beat Partridge twice, would Frank Warren then want to put Wardley in against AJ? If AJ's in good form beating Partridge, would he really want to do that? I mean, maybe it depends on where Atama is at by that point. If Atama's got a world title by that point, maybe Frank Warren would be willing to potentially risk having Wardley beat by an inform AJ, but there's a load of buts. Pause. Striker says he was irritated by Paul. Yeah, going back to the AJ Jake Paul fight. Yeah, he was irritated and he was frustrated by the fact Paul was running around the ring like that. AJ's the kind of guy that likes to have all his ducks in a row before he lets his shots go. He's a very like regimented kind of fighter. He does things by the numbers. He's not a freestyler. Yeah, Partridge is more like a freestyler. AJ has to do everything by the numbers. He's not as flexible mentally as Partridge. Akali says, did you hear Jake saying he wobbled AJ? He must have got hit harder than we thought. He landed a couple good shots. I didn't notice AJ looking wobbled, but to be fair, to play devil's advocate, sometimes when you're in there and you can look a guy in the eyes, that's when you can tell better than people watching ringside whether you've got to him. Even momentarily, if you've buzzed him, it's often easier to tell when you're the guy in there and you're looking in his eyes. You can see the little subtle reactions from his body that people even watching ringside or on TV can't pick up on. But if he was buzzed at all, AJ, by Jake Paul, it was only very slightly. He wasn't like majorly hurt or anything. Big up Charles B for the super chat. Much appreciated, my bro. Merry Christmas, Hatman. More power to you this coming year. I really appreciate that. And all the best to you and yours, Charles B. That's my guy right there. Big up Charles B. And what are you doing for Christmas? Kicking back with the family? Or are you Scrooge like me? I don't do anything on Christmas. I don't celebrate Christmas, my birthday, New Year's. I don't have, a big meal, friends around or anything like that. What I do though, is I will go around to other people's places for Christmas. if I'm invited, as long as it's a relatively quiet affair. If it's like a big party or something like that, I'm not going. But a few years ago, for example, one of my good friends, when I was still living in the UK, he used to invite me around to his parents' house for Christmas. Yeah. Because I lived close by him, and he'd always go to his, mum and dad's house. His sister was still living there at the time as well. And obviously I don't have any family in Britain. And, there was another Caribbean family. And so they used to invite me around, the Caribbean thing. And I used to go around there and have rice and peas and curry chicken and all that kind of stuff. Things that Jamaicans cook around Christmas time. So yeah, I wouldn't turn that down. But as far as in my household, I don't have any Christmas celebrations. Big up Charles B every time. Do I celebrate anything? Yes, I do celebrate things. I celebrate things like when I've achieved something, or when I have a stroke of good luck. I celebrate that for sure. But in terms of societal celebrations, like celebrations that everyone is supposed to participate in, I don't participate in any of those. And as I say, I don't celebrate my birthday either, because I don't live like a really dangerous life. So I don't see the reason to be jumping for joy that I've lived another year. I don't live in like a danger zone, bro. If I did, then maybe I'd celebrate. Then again, would I? Because if life is that bad, are you happy to live another year if you live in a hellhole? But anyway, another reason I don't celebrate my birthday is because I don't like to focus too much on my actual age, because I've got this wild hypothesis in my mind that if you focus too much on your actual chronological age, your body will reflect that. Not that you can beat Father Time completely, unless you're some kind of like Indian yoga master, who can reach nirvana and disappear from the physical reality. That notwithstanding, I do think that the way you think of yourself, self-perception, can have some effect on your physical body. That's what I suspect anyway. So I don't try to focus too much on my chronological age. Big up Charles B says, just same old, have a dinner then back to business as usual. I'm not a big Christmas person, but it's nice to spread some cheer. Yes, it's always nice to spread. I try and spread some cheer all year round. But I understand for most people, they have time off around Christmas, so they're going to be more cheerful in the festive period. Big up Charles B. Yes, it's always good to spread some cheer. Shout out to John for the super chat there. No caller ID says Hatman wants to be different. No, I don't want to be different. I am different. That's the difference. I'm not doing it out here to try and appear to be different. I've just always been different since I was a kid. I've never wanted to, I've never felt pressurized. I've never bowed to the pressure to conform. That's what it is. I do what makes me comfortable, and I do what makes sense to me. If something don't make sense to me as an individual, I ain't doing it. I don't care how many other people want to do it. I don't care what society says about it. If it don't make sense to me, I ain't doing it. And that's that. And I'm not afraid to go against the grain on that. I do whatever makes me comfortable. I'm not a contrarian. Some people love to throw that label on you. You're a contrarian, as if you just go against the grain for the sake of going against the grain because you want to appear to be edgy and different. I don't give a damn about being edgy and different. In fact, there's a line from a rap group called Company Flow. They were an underground rap group in the 1990s who had real cool artwork for their music. Very, very cool artwork. But in one of the tracks, I think it was the track called Population Control, one of the rappers called LP, who later on went on to be part of a duo called Run the Jewels, LP and Killer Mike. But there's a line on that track, Population Control, where LP says, "I don't try to be different, I am." And that's all I'll say about it. I don't try to be. It's not an effort for me to be different. I just am different. Big up Free Coffee Guy. He says, "I'm no Scrooge, but I think the whole thing is a bit ridiculous. Birthdays, national holidays, Christmas. However, I do think it's good to play along, even if I think it's arbitrary." Why would you say it's good to play along? Warren Paul Williams says, "Hatman, do you ever think you'll get married and have kids?" Yes. I'm working on that right now. Charles B says, "Iron Maiden albums always had great artworks." Yeah, a lot of the heavy metal, death metal, they always had really interesting artwork. And with Company Flow in particular, that rap group from the 90s, they had very, very interesting artwork. A lot of the Raucous Records, there was a record company back in the days that released a lot of independent hip hop music, not exclusively based in New York, but a lot of the independent artists that they were working with were from New York. But the artwork for Raucous Records products generally was fantastic for whatever reason. You know, maybe they just had the hookup with certain artists or whatever, but yeah, the artwork was fantastic. I mean, I had a Raucous Records track, and I was literally buying damn near every Raucous Records release back in the days. And there was a Latino rapper called El Fudge, and he had a track called "Show Me Your Gratitude," and the B-side was a track called "What If." Both really cool tracks, and that had great artwork on it. Gorguga says Fun Crusher Plus was a classic. Yeah, that's the Company Flow album or artwork I was alluding to there. Fun Crusher Plus, and also the artwork on a single I had by Company Flow called "Blind." Just look up the artwork for "Blind." There was another single they came out with called End to End Burners. That was crazy artwork as well. It was like some anime inspired, not like Super Saiyan type anime, but the really weird anime. Yeah, the weird anime, that's what inspired that End to End Burners artwork for that single. Big up Green Entity for the super chat. It says, "AJ knocking out Jake wasn't good enough for me. I was hoping Jake would go out like Cole Thompson did against Ezra Sellers." All right, so I guess you're not a fan of Jake. You wanted to see him get knocked out cold, huh? So him having his jaw broken wasn't enough. Wasn't satisfying. I can respect it. If you really don't like Jake, I can respect it. Big up Green Entity for the super chat. Yeah, I saw Dan Aziz get knocked out by Craig Richards in the final round. Craig Richards has always been a good puncher. Linkage says, "How does Jake do against Ngannou?" If he actually tries to box with Ngannou and engage, Ngannou wins all day long. If he runs around the ring like he did against AJ and tries to land the odd pot shot, maybe that's a good strategy for him. Maybe that's a good strategy. Ngannou obviously is not as good as AJ, not as well coordinated, but he's very physically strong. Yeah, I'm still saying Ngannou beats Jake Paul all day long, but he'll beat him a lot easier if Jake Paul tries to engage. Okay, big up FIFA Junior for the super chat. He says, much love, bro. If Luke Partridge was in AJ's shoes back when Usyk was the WBO mandatory, do you think Partridge would have vacated instead? I think yes. I'm going to agree with you. Because back in 2020, there's an interview. It's still up. I downloaded it before any of these weird Partridge fanboys can start denying it, in case it gets taken down somehow. But there's an interview that Partridge did back in 2020 where he explicitly stated that he has no interest whatsoever in fighting Usyk. And the interviewer said, what, even if he beats AJ? He said, yeah, even if he beats AJ, I've got no interest in fighting him. And that's when Partridge was WBC champion. I think anyway, yeah, pretty sure he was WBC champion by then. So, you know, I have to agree with you. If he was in that position and Usyk was being forced upon him, yeah, he'd vacate the belt and then come up with some silly excuse. Big up Grizz D for the super chat. He says, the US women have really taken to AJ. I wonder if they'd still like him if he keeps talking. Well, there's the novelty of accents, you know. It's like in the States, when you're, you know, coming from Europe or whatever, and it's the same in the UK, you know, but I think even more so in the States, because Americans don't hear British accents as much as British people hear American accents. So there's just a novelty, particularly for women, associated with men that have these foreign accents, you know, from Europe and whatnot. So I don't think they will necessarily see AJ as being as odd and boring as we do. But yeah, that's my take on it. And that's what people are saying, that AJ's gained a lot of, you know, extra female fans, is knocking out Jake Paul. So it's a job. The job's a good one for AJ, isn't it? It was a PR exercise for him. It was a run out for an enormous amount of money. In fact, AJ might have actually just made history with that Jake Paul fight as far as the biggest purse for a run out, maybe ever. Do you know what I mean? Potentially the biggest purse in boxing history for a run out. Tony S says Baumgartner seems like she wants AJ bad. And judging by AJ's baby mom, she might even be his type, at least to some extent. Anyone seen AJ's baby mom? She's like some mixed race girl. Big up Activistic Intellect. He says, do you think you could take Tate in a 6th rounder if you had a 3-month training camp? I think I could take Tate in any kind of, you know, whatever rounds in a boxing match we're talking about here. And I wouldn't need a 3-month training camp. He can't box. That's it. Afro Soul says, why do people keep saying she's bad? Yeah, I was having this discussion the other day. Was it in... Yeah, it was in a previous live. I don't think Baumgartner's attractive, man. She's got like a gristly, kind of muscular body and square jaw and... Nah, man. She's definitely not my type. Chris Ward says, call someone out, Hatman. You get massive support. I'm too old to be calling people out, bro. I like having a nice, quiet, peaceful life. I'm too old to be calling people out. And I've always had a policy on my channel of never calling out other channels, for one. Other channels that do what I do. Basically boxing vloggers. I never call out other channels, and I never respond to other channels when they call me out. Because believe it or not, the YouTube algorithm doesn't actually like it. Like, you'll get less traction regarding the algorithm if you start calling out other channels and going back and forth with other channels. That's a pro tip for anyone who wants to do YouTube. Don't get into back and forth with other channels. The algorithm generally doesn't like it. And over the long term, you'll actually start to get less views if you keep doing that consistently. And obviously, one of the other things, the reason I don't respond to people that call me out is because it's always smaller channels. If I respond, I'm giving them views. I don't want to give somebody views who's being disrespectful towards me. Why am I going to help you out by responding to you? No, man. Big up Matt Borgerson for the super chat. He says, do you think you could beat up Tete with a 3-month training camp right now? Also, AB said, she is the worst ride ever. I believe him. AB? What, is it Adrian Broner? Are you saying Adrian Broner smashed Alicia Baumgardner? Is that what you're saying? Wow, okay. Matt says, Baumgardner been around the block too. She has consumed a lot of protein in the boxing world. Oh dear. As far as Tete, for me, Tete is a much harder fight than Tate. You know, if I were to fight Tete, even though people laugh at him in the boxing arena, I think Tete is better than Tate. Even though he's like 50. I think Tete is more dangerous than Tate, to be honest, in a boxing match. So I'd be more concerned in that fight. Yeah, Tete's got them wild uppercuts, bro. You never know, he might catch you with some mad stuff. But as far as Baumgardner apparently being a bicycle on a boxing circuit, I have no knowledge of that, but it wouldn't surprise me. There are some pretty well-known bicycles on the boxing circuit. Don't want to drop any names here, but I'm sure you guys know who I'm alluding to. There are some bicycles on the boxing circuit, bro. Talking about females here. And not necessarily boxers themselves. Big up Ali for the super chat. He says, sorry, Hatman, late on the live stream. Anyways, I have news that you would be interested in to listen to. Have your own views and thoughts on. Okay. Go right ahead. Drop the news on us. Good sir. Big up Ali. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. He says, Anthony Joshua has history with her too. With Baumgardner? All right, Matt. Spilling the tea here. I had no idea. Striker says, some of these smaller channels are awful, weird fanboys and bizarre takes. Joshua Hooker says, Tete has made good money this year, 3 fights against 3 names. But has he made good money? My guess, and it is just a guess, I've got no inside info, my guess is that the reason he's getting all this activity against big names is because he's cheap. Remember, this guy's from Ghana. So what seems like a very small purse for a UK heavyweight would be a big purse to a Ghanaian heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? Wave says Kell Brook wifed it up. No, I was talking about somebody. I was more alluding to someone who actually isn't a boxer as far as the bike. FIFA Junior says, Hatman, what is going on with Okolie? He's getting heavier and fighting worse opponents. Again, he wants to fight good opponents. I've got no doubt about that. But the good opponents don't want to fight him. And I don't think there's any TV pressure. I don't think there's any pressure from the zone for these guys that Okolie is targeting to fight him. I don't think that the zone execs are going to be, banging down Ajit Caballo's door or Atalma's door or anybody else's door saying, you must fight Lawrence Okolie in your next fight. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. So, yeah, that's what it is. Because Okolie's never been a guy, if you trace his career all the way back to cruiserweight, he's never been a guy that shies away from taking on the best available opposition. The only exception to that, some could argue, would be Riakporhe, when he claims he was injured but didn't reschedule the fight. But other than the Riakporhe thing, he's always tried to fight the best guys he can get in the ring. Yeah, I agree with FIFA Junior. I think he's better than people realize. Big up Matt for the super chat. He says, if Kate Abdo was a bicycle, I'd take a ride too. Damn. For real? Yeah, Kate Abdo is not my type at all, bro. But hey, different strokes for different folks. Malik Scott likes her. But for me, she's just way too like skinny and gristly, you know? She looks like about 90 pounds of gristle. Like Kate Abdo, to me, I'm no expert on this, folks, but to me, she looks like someone with an eating disorder. Like the one from Sky. What was the one from Sky called? Was it Anna Woolhouse? I'm sure, to me, Anna Woolhouse looks like someone that's got an eating disorder. And I think Kate Abdo, same way. Atavistic Intellect says, is Jane Couch the boxing bicycle? Definitely not. That'd be a shocker. Big up Matt, he says, who's that super attractive girl that does MVP? Not sure. I'm not sure who you're alluding to is what I mean. Who you're referring to. Free Coffee Guy says, her accent was driving me crazy the other day. Hussein says, what kind of women do you like? African women. Exactly that, pugilist specialist. Okolie is slowly morphing into Martin Bakole. Yeah. He needs to control that weight. I don't like any girls in the boxing world. Tony S. As far as Kate Abdo's accent, I understand why it annoys people, but it doesn't particularly annoy me because she does primarily work in the US and she's married to an American and she works for Americans and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of Americans, believe it or not, find it hard to understand UK accents. It's the weirdest thing, but they do. Kate Abdul, I think, is from Manchester. So she's kind of like Americanizing her accent a little bit to make it more palatable to the audience. So on a professional level, I don't even have an issue with that. She works primarily in America. She's softening her accent. She's making it a bit Americanized so Americans can understand her better. But I get why people might find it's weird and sounds weird and all that kind of stuff. But me personally, I don't have an issue with it. Okay, I've missed the super chat here. Apparently, let me try to find it. Apologies. Oh, okay, yeah. Where's Carla says, Hatman, Baumgartner or Shields? Smash one, pass one. I would cover Shields' face or her head with a brown paper bag and smash Shields rather than Baumgartner. Like, I like her body better than Baumgartner's body. So brown paper bag over her head. Maybe actually gag her somehow so she can't talk. Do it that way. You know? Ollie says just opened the stream. Yeah, we're getting the smash or pass questions. Pugilist specialist says Baumgartner too masculine. Well, pretty much all female fighters are too masculine, isn't it? It's a masculine sport. But physically, Clarissa Shields' body, to me, doesn't look as masculine as Baumgartner's body. It's her face and her mouth that are the biggest problem. So, brown paper bag, gagged, so she can't talk. If I have to pick between smashing one or the other, yeah, I'll go with that one. Indeed, Ocean Blue. At least no one's mentioned Greta. But now that you've said it, people are gonna start putting her in the conversation again. Oh dear, here we go. Matt says, would you rather pound down Chris Cyborg or Dolly Parton in 2025? So that is diabolical, bro. If it was like Dolly Parton in her prime, then it's an easy answer. You're talking about Dolly Parton now? How old is Dolly Parton now? Like in her 80s? That is a sadistic question, my guy. That's sadistic. As wild as this is, I'd have to go Dolly, bro. Even now. Cyborg is just so horrible. But that is a diabolical question. Oh, damn. Forge is saying Cyborg all day. Okay, he's a savage. Indeed, I'm with Kylie on this one. Totally over Cyborg even now. KDVS says, y'all sick. That's a whole fact. That is a whole fact. This stream is taking a turn for the worse here. What's going on? Joshua Hooker says, Eddie Hearn's missus or Sky Nicholson. I can't remember what Eddie Hearn's missus looks like. I can't remember what she looks like. I think I've seen her once in an interview with Hearn years ago, but I can't remember what she looks like. I don't find Sky Nicholson attractive though, so I don't know. Maybe I'll go for Eddie Hearn's missus. Big up Matt, he says Cyborg Nunes an opera in a room. Watch them or join in. You have no choice. Well, if I have no choice as in I can't leave the room, then better to watch than join in. Or Oprah, excuse me. I guess I meant to say Oprah. Cyborg Nunez and Oprah in a room. Watch them or join in. You have no choice. What is the no choice bit? As in I have to join in? Well, if you have to join in, you have to join in if you got a gun to your head. But if it's a choice between either watching or joining in, then yeah, I'm definitely not joining in, bro. Shout out to Matt for the super chat. Okay, I have to choose between the two. Yeah, then I'll just watch and not join in. I'll watch with clenched teeth. How about that? Yeah, Matt is wilding out here. Matt is wilding out. He's trying to put me under pressure. Big up my guy, Matt. Ali says, can you see my comment? Yes. He says, Hatman, watch Boxing King Media interview with Ben Shalom, reveals Sky deal and beef of Eddie Hearn interview will speak for itself. Okay. I'll give that a watch. I do find that Ben Shalom interviews are actually getting a bit better these days. Especially since he started biting back against Hearn. Trolling Hearn a little bit. So, yeah, I'll give that a watch. Big up, Ali. The vinyl collector says, I'm joining in and selling the story to the paper. Someone is saying that, okay, yeah, excuse me, FIFA Junior says, Ben talks complete nonsense, keeps leaving cryptic messages. Well, yeah, I mean, all promoters talk nonsense to some extent, but sometimes nonsense can be entertaining. And I do find Ben Shalom's interviews these days a bit better than they used to be. So I'll give that interview a watch. Excuse me, I missed a super chat by Where's Carlos? He says, Ilona Mayer or Terry Harper. I don't know who Ilona Mayer is. Let me look her up. American Rugby Union player. Oh dear. Oh dear. And let me remind myself what Terry Harper looks like. It's getting sadistic in here, folks. I mean, that's a sadistic choice. I'll go with Terry Harper, though, over that rugby player. That's long. Shout out to Wes Carlos. Big up Matt, he says, would you rather sit in a room with a 300-pound woman who has severe IBS and passing gas the whole time, or Clarissa Shields singing for 24 hours? Definitely Clarissa Shields singing for 24 hours. What's the prize here, by the way? Why do I have to do either one of these things? Like, is it a thing where if I'm in that situation, I get a prize, like some cash? Or is it a situation where I've got a gun to my head and I have to choose one or the other? What's the scenario? Because obviously you wouldn't do any of this voluntarily. You'd have to be cash. All right. If it's a cash prize, then definitely Clarissa Shields singing for 24 hours. No one's asking what's the prize. Yeah. Okay, it will be 10K for cash for the fart and 500 for Clarissa. I'll just go for the 500 Clarissa, bro. Because you're going to be traumatized with a 300-pound woman. You know, you never forget that for the rest of your life. You're going to be traumatized. So I'll take the 500 cash for Clarissa. Now, this is crazy, right? Back in the days when I was doing security, not nightclub security, this is after my days as a bouncer, when I was just doing retail security, luxury retail. And there was a Ghanaian guy that I used to work with, you know, born and raised in Ghana, big guy. And this guy was like obsessed with becoming rich. And he used to do these hypotheticals, yeah? And one of the other guards, because we all used to talk on the radio and, you know, have banter and all this kind of stuff. And when I was off, they must have had one of these hypotheticals. So when I came back, I think it was the South African guy basically told me what the Ghanaian guy had said in the hypothetical. And he said it in front of him. It's not like he hid it or anything. We were always roasting each other and whatnot. And the Ghanaian guy said that he would actually smash a man for £1 million. I was like, what? And obviously when we're roasting him about it, he was trying to defend it. And he was saying, are you seriously telling me that the £1 million is right there and all you have to do is smash that guy? You're telling me you're not going to do it? Like, your life has changed forever. The million is right there. It's ready to go. And I was like, no, I wouldn't do it. He's like, no, you're lying. You would do it. You would definitely. I was like, listen, you're going to be living with that for the rest of your life, bro. You're going to be living with it for the rest. It's going to be etched in your brain and you're going to be like, yeah. I can't wake up every day and live with that. So, no, I ain't doing it. Matt says he would do it. There you go. I'm surprised Matt would do it because Matt's already got the bag. Matt's already got the bag. He's already got the money. Huh? Me, I definitely ain't doing it, bro. To hell with that. But yeah, that Ghanaian guy tried to stand 10 toes down and he was like, no, all you guys would do it. He was saying that he would do it and all you guys are lying. Ocean Blue says you'd need $1 million for the electroshock therapy. Okay, what's this? Arcane Code says it reminds me of that Savage Dan clip of him saying, if you man do it first, I'll do it. I don't know about that clip. What did Savage Dan say? I've always found Savage Dan to be a weird guy. He's got a weird vibe about him, that Savage Dan, man. Very dark and weird vibe. And why is he called Savage? You know, isn't he a businessman? Big up Pound for Pound. He says, good morning, good day, good evening, people. Blessings to you all. What's up, Hatman? Hope life is good. What on earth is the subject matter of this live? Yeah, we're all the way out there, bro. The subject matter has taken a major left turn. Big up Grizz D for the super chat. He says, not all money is good money. I couldn't have said it better myself. Not all money is good money, bro. You could do certain things for money and you can't live with yourself. In fact, let's talk about that a second. I'm going to say that generally speaking, men have more dignity than women. Naturally. I'm saying naturally, in general, men have more dignity than women do. What do you guys think? And I'll explain my position. Just want to get your feedback. But I'm saying that generally speaking, men are more dignified. They have more dignity than most women do. Matt says, I spent my bag on Shakur versus Tio tickets. Are you going to that fight? Yeah, those tickets can't be cheap. That's right, Warren. Savage Dan was the one working on Boxer. Yeah, he's got a very odd and very, sinister vibe to me. Ollie says, do you think it's because men have more of an ego? Debatable, because there's some egomaniac women out there, but just a thought. No, I don't think it's because of the male ego. I just don't think women necessarily have a stronger sense of what dignity is. Do you know what I mean? Because it was always claimed back in the days that corn, let's call it corn, that's the substitute word that people use on YouTube now to not trigger the algorithm. But, P-O-R-N, corn, it was always argued that it was exploitative of women. It's also always been argued that, prostitution is basically a manifestation of the evils of patriarchy. But in the modern West, where women are not oppressed, where they have all the opportunities, they don't need men. They can earn their own money. You have the rise in OnlyFans, quote unquote, models who are basically just peep show girls. Back in the days in the red light district, there used to be something called peep shows. And that is literally what women are doing now independently on OnlyFans. So when they are left to their own devices and they can make money in a million different ways, keeping their dignity, they choose not to do that, many of them. It's not the majority, but there's many of them who choose not to keep their dignity and instead get naked on the internet in front of thousands or millions of strangers. Men are far less, or there are far fewer men who are willing to do stuff like that than is the case with women. So men have a much stronger sense of dignity in general. No, because as a man, men can still do OnlyFans. The difference, of course, would be that the majority of the male audience, if a man was to do OnlyFans, would be other men. Because women really don't consume as much of that kind of content. But those women who do OnlyFans, for example, they don't care that sometimes you've got women who get their content. They don't care. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's males watching or women watching and paying. They don't care. Whereas, men have just got more dignity. They're not willing to lower themselves, cheapen themselves to the same extent that women are generally in order to get what they want. And it's not just OnlyFans. We all know that historically women have slept their way into positions in the workforce. Some women, I'm not saying all women, but we all know that there are a certain number of women that will sleep their way up the ladder in the workforce to get opportunities, right? They'll literally just hold themselves out to get opportunities. Grizz D says, I think women just have more options. So you don't think that women are generally less dignified than men? I personally think they are. They're generally less dignified. Women, when it comes to like improving their lifestyle, they are willing to do, I'm not saying all women, but compared to men, women are far more willing to do anything to improve their lifestyle. Do you know what I mean? When I say anything, they're willing to compromise their dignity to the most insane extent in order to improve their lifestyle. And perhaps they have more opportunities to do that. Okay. But should I tell a story about when I was a bouncer again? I've got another story about when I was a bouncer. Am I still live here? Let me refresh this page real quick because there's some weird stuff going on here. Open a new tab up. Hopefully we're still live. Okay, Firefox, don't do this to me. Sort yourself out. I cannot tell if I'm still live. Is my tab crashed in? No, I think I'm still live. Here we go. Okay, yes. So big up Matt Borgerson. He says, I heard they're having Rayford versus Magsayo too. Okay, I guess you mean on the Stevenson Teo undercard. And as long as my lady covered her face for corn, it's okay. Then no one can know it was her, right, Matt? Matt's wilding out. Now, when I was working in that same place, doing luxury retail security, there was a guy who was a Brazilian guy who used to be a male stripper. All right. Now, Fernie G says, Hatman, have you tried any other internet browser than Firefox? I've been using Vivaldi for years and it's great. Yeah, I've used loads of different browsers. Firefox is just the one that I use for my YouTube. My regular browser that I use for non-YouTube is Brave. I've also used Opera in the past. I quite liked Opera. But yeah, so there was a guy that was working as a security guard as part of our team in luxury retail, a Brazilian guy who at the time was in his 40s. And he used to be a male stripper. He told us about it, and obviously we totally rinsed him. Like every day we were cracking jokes, you know, rinsing him about being a male stripper. You know, with like the Velcro pants, which they can like rip off the pants because the down the sides is like Velcro. We used to make the Velcro motion with the pants whenever he would come in, like roasting him about the roasting him about the male stripper stuff. And to be fair, he was a very good sport. He used to laugh along with it. But he started talking to this South African guy who was part of our team, who used to, you know, me and the South African guy used to roast him the most. And the South African guy was, you know, white South African guy from Durban, who at the time would have been in his early 20s. And he started in conversations telling this guy about an old Englishman that he worked for somewhere in Mayfair or something, you know, in one of the rich parts of London, because we were working in Knightsbridge, right? But I think this guy lived in Mayfair or somewhere like that. And he was saying, yeah, twirly bow ties. He was saying that he was making extra money on the side by going to see this old man, right? Some old like aristocrat, and basically washing himself in front of this old man. This is what this Brazilian guy was saying to us. And he was, the way he was dropping it, I was thinking, are you serious? Are you actually telling us that this is what you do, or are you trolling us here? And then he started asking the South African guy whether he wants some extra money because he could come along. And he was saying for like 15 minutes of washing himself in front of the old man, he'd give them like £200 each. I was like, this is crazy, bro. This is crazy, bro. And obviously the South African guy was like, hell no. Hell to the no, no, no. I ain't doing that, bro. What are you talking about? How are you even going to come to me with that kind of talk? Ali says, what's Michaela Mayer doing in the next fight? Any news? I have got no idea, bro. I don't pay much attention to female boxing, truth be told. Mark Odell says, Ebenezer Tete is 50 tomorrow. I reckon he was 55 years ago. Yeah, we used to have some banter in that shop, bro. We used to have some banter in there. But yeah, that Brazilian guy was wild, bro. I don't know what he was on. Very, very odd. We used to rinse him over that stripper stuff. And he could barely speak English as well. So he was like proper fresh from Brazil. So KDVS says, or KD versus the world, I guess what it is. Brazil is a sus place. Brazil has never really appealed to me. Literally all my life, when people have been bigging up Brazil, I've never been drawn to Brazil ever. I've never been drawn to Brazil. It just doesn't appeal to me somehow. Joshua Hooker says, why did you switch from nightclubs to retail? Well, it's a lot safer. Back then anyway, because back then, streets of London were wild. You know, much more rough than now. A lot safer, less stress, and better working hours. I say better working hours, I mean more sociable working hours. I didn't like, I was doing 9-hour shifts and stuff like that in retail, which weren't great. But yeah, it was mainly just because of the stress and the danger aspect of it. Because I got into quite a few scrapes as a bouncer. In the end, the police were looking for me and I was like, nah, man, I've just got my SAA license. I don't need this. Better to quit now before something more serious happens next time. LJ says, Hatman, who do you give a better chance of winning? Paul versus Ngannou or Johnny Bosch versus Usyk? Definitely Paul versus Ngannou. Johnny Bosch versus Usyk? I'm not even sure if that fight goes around. Music playlist says, have you noticed often Brazilian men have high voices and Brazilian women have low voices? I haven't particularly noticed that, but as I say, Brazil has just never appealed to me. It's never appealed to me. I'm not saying it's wrong if other people like Brazil, you know, different strokes for different folks. I'm just talking about myself as an individual. I've just never been drawn towards Brazil. Wave says, Hatman, do you sympathize with Ty Mitchell catching a body from a nightclub fight after being a bouncer, seeing how easy it is to get in a fight? Well, Ty Mitchell killed a student in a fight. Now, when I was a bouncer, one of the companies I worked for basically divided the labor based upon how well a particular bouncer could handle themselves in a fight. Okay? The bouncers who were deemed to be soft and not that good in a fight were often put on student nights. Yeah? So if a bouncer wanted an easy touch, an easy night, get paid a little less money, and they'd be around people that they can actually handle in a kickoff, they go and work student nights. Whereas people that actually were deemed to be able to handle themselves and they were formidable, well, they wouldn't be working student nights. They'd be working with, regular punters. So the fact that Ty Mitchell unalived the student, I mean, don't get it twisted. You can get some students that are disrespectful, think they're tough guys, etc. But more often than not, that's not the case. So look, I didn't obviously know the guy that Ty Mitchell unalived, so I can't speak definitively about it. But it's a little of an eyebrow raiser that he knocked out and unalived a student, right? A university student. Wave says it was an argument. Yeah, but an argument about what? You can get into an argument with a student, but have you heard what students say during an argument? I mean, like, obviously they're not all the same, but generally when you're a bouncer, 99.9% of the problems that you're going to have will not be with students. Unless it's some kind of wannabe tough guy rugby player or something, then yeah, most of the time the students are light work. You're not going to be needed to knock them out or anything. Do you know what I mean? Same Hussein says they were both on a night out. One punch, he hit his head and died. That's just unlucky. Yeah, but again, the guy was a student. Why is he knocking out students? Like, why does he feel he needs to take... He's a professional boxer. Why does a professional boxer feel like he needs to actually start punching up a university student? I'm just asking the question because as somebody that worked as a bouncer for several years, and I'm very familiar with students and what they're usually like, why would a professional boxer feel like he has to actually punch up a student? I don't know. Because I punched up plenty of people when I was a bouncer, but none of them, to my knowledge, were students. Yeah, absolutely. The job, nightclub security, definitely attracts bullies. Amali says maybe the students got way too disrespectful. Well, somebody just mentioned AJ there. Some students got disrespectful with AJ, but he didn't punch him up, did he? Didn't punch them up. He said some threatening words, but he didn't actually put hands on anybody. And that was several of them. That wasn't one guy. You know, if you're dealing with several, there's a greater chance that you might feel the need to actually put hands on someone. But if you're dealing with like one student, I don't know. It's a little odd. Again, think of the context. Ty Mitchell's not an ordinary guy. He's a professional boxer. He knows the kind of damage you can do to somebody. You see what I'm saying? Like, he's not supposed to think he has to prove anything on the street. Obviously, he's not supposed to be taking disrespect, but is it really going to get to that level with a student? I mean, maybe it did. I don't know. I'm not too privy to how the situation actually went down, but all I can tell you is, in my experience, it's unusual for students, you know, to warrant being punched in the face by professional boxers. Big up Bobs for the super chat. He says, in 50 years, society, Blade Runner or Mad Max? Surely Blade Runner. I don't see any kind of nuclear apocalypse myself. What I can tell you, right, from my time working as a bouncer, is that Ayed says it didn't. The student looked very harmless. Yeah, I think I did at some point see the student who Ty Mitchell unalived, and I remember him looking not very intimidating, to say the least. What I can tell you from my time as a bouncer is that some guys are just a nasty piece of work. I worked with bouncers who were like that. Certain bouncers were just like real nasty pieces of work, and they wouldn't think anything of knocking out, do you know what I mean, like a pencil neck or something, because they think it's funny. So I'm not saying Ty Mitchell fits into that category, but those guys exist, bro. People who are just nasty piece of work. I mean, I told the story about a guy who left an expensive jacket inside the nightclub I was working at. And my boss and one of the other bouncers wouldn't let this guy in to get his jacket, even though they had the jacket. I don't know why they were doing that. Some kind of sadistic pleasure they got out of tormenting this guy for his jacket. But they said, you have to come back tomorrow to get your jacket. We don't know if it's here. They knew it was there. They had it. We don't know if it's here, because this is at closing time, right? Everyone's been escorted out, and the guy's like, can you let me back in? Do you have my jacket? The jacket costs, I don't know what it was, £300-400. And my boss and the other bouncer was like, no, you can't come back in and get it, because we don't know if we've got it. We'll have a look. Come back tomorrow. And the guy was like really upset. When they closed the door, one of the bigger guys put this guy's jacket, and the guy was a little guy, whose jacket it was. He was a little guy. I don't know, he might have been 5'8", 5'9", you know, $150, 150 pounds or something. And this big, like 18 stone, you know, 250 pound bouncer, my boss and some of the other guys were like, yeah, put the jacket on, He put the guy's jacket on, and obviously the jacket ripped. As soon as he started flexing his steroid muscles, the guy's jacket ripped. And obviously they fed the guys, and they were all laughing, and, you know, they fed the guy some story. And it's like, some people are just horrible, bro. Yeah. Some people are just horrible. And they get like a sick pleasure out of batting up even people that can't defend themselves. Again, I'm not saying Ty Mitchell is one of them, but it's possible. Big up June Sports. He says, do you listen to Heady One? I don't, but I know who Heady One is. Big up Green Entity. He says, who wins at 135, Katie Taylor or Amir Khan? Talk about trolling. Obviously Khan wins, but yeah, that's a nice troll there. Shout out to Green Entity. as far as Heady One, the only song of his that I actually know the name of is the Shh song. Is it called Know Better? Where the whole song is like, shh, shh, shh. You should know better, or however it goes. So, and I did see that video of when Heady One got moved to. He got set up. I think that was actually at a university. Some girl was used to lure him to a university, and then the man them jumped out on him. But I can't say I listen to his music like that. I just know the one tune that I can think of. I know who he is. A shout out to MRA. He says, do you know what happened to Chris Andre boxing? I got no idea, bro. I often get asked about Chris. No idea what he's up to these days. Last I heard of him from someone who's a member of my Element group was maybe about a year ago. And they said they'd spoken to him and he was fine. But other than that, no idea, bro. Big up MRA. Yeah, for real, Charles B. says, imagine being that student's mother and seeing your child's killer fighting on misfits. That would rub you up the wrong way. Indeed it would. Joshua Hooker says, did you see Ty push T. Robinson? I didn't. I really haven't been keeping up with Ty Mitchell's career. For those who don't know, Ty Mitchell is actually the son of Clifton Mitchell. Clifton Mitchell is more well known these days for running a security company that deals with a lot of boxing events. But I came to know of Clifton Mitchell when he was a professional boxer. Fighting out of the Ingle Gym. Clifton Mitchell's from Derby, but he fought out of the Ingle Gym, and he had that lean back, Harold Graham inspired style. And he was a decent puncher, Clifton Mitchell, quite athletic, but that style got him chinned quite a few times. You know, he got chinned horribly by James Oyebola. I'm not sure if that fight's still on YouTube, but go watch that fight. He gets knocked out cold. One punch by James Oyebola. He's like leaning back against the ropes. I mean, just defensively disastrous against the James Oyebola, who's like 6'9" with, I don't know, 85 or 86 inch reach. Clifton Mitchell was like 6'3". I mean, just from a defensive perspective, he couldn't have made a worse move in that situation. So he got knocked clean out by James Oyebola. And he also got knocked out in, was it a round or two by Zelko Mavrovich, Clifton Mitchell? So yeah, Mitchell had an issue with defense and punch resistance, but he could punch pretty hard himself. He was a good puncher himself. And he's a nice guy, or at least he comes across as a nice guy, Clifton Mitchell. I don't know him in real life, but he always comes across as like a nice guy. Oh wow, Ed says, I just Googled Ty Mitchell and his actual name is Clifton Mitchell Jr. There you go. Oh my gosh. Here's another sadistic question. Hyro Protagonist says, would you rather your daughter on OnlyFans or have a rainbow son? Oh my God. That is the ultimate sadistic question right there. I'd rather be asked about Sonia from EastEnders or Greta again than that question is crazy, bro. Why can't it be, would you rather your daughter on OnlyFans or have a rainbow daughter? Because I'd rather take the rainbow daughter in that scenario, but the rainbow son, bro, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. Eesh. Yeah, I couldn't choose in that scenario. Seriously, I couldn't choose. All I would say is the child would be taken to Africa. Well, the child, if I wasn't already in Africa, the child would be taken to Africa and immersed in African culture to the most deepest and most African extent. Either way, either or, whether it's the daughter or the son, they'd be taken to Africa and immersed in the most hardcore African culture. I wouldn't want to choose between one of the two. Either way, that's what I'll be doing. Ocean Blue says this is torture at this point. Yeah, this is sadistic, bro. Some of you guys love putting me under the cosh. Huh? Big up James Clifford. He says, I work the doors in Milton Keynes to pay off my student loans. The spectrum of doormen covers good talkers who can calm things down to those who punch first as they want to. I don't miss those days, too many close calls. Yeah, me neither. I don't miss those days either. I mean, some of the banter was enjoyable, but I never enjoyed like violence when I was a bouncer or any kind of street fights. I never enjoyed it. And you know, I don't want to say I was the most dangerous guy or anything like that, but all I would say is when you have someone that can fight and they don't like to fight, don't push that person. Because when a person who can fight but doesn't want to fight is pushed into fighting, they are going to be more savage than anybody in a fight. Do you know what I mean? Because I just wanted to go to work, not have any drama. I don't want to be disrespected. I don't want anyone to put their hands on me. Just leave me alone, bro. Just have a nice night. Yeah? As soon as someone started getting disrespectful, putting their hands or threatening me, that was the one. Anyone that tries to threaten me and get in my space and act like they're going to do something, God help you, because it's not going to be me. It's going to be you that's going to go to the hospital, because I'll strike first, bro. Don't do that. All right? Don't make me feel threatened. I'm not saying I'm the toughest guy in the world. All right? But I'm a man. I've got pride. And if I feel I'm under threat, yeah, I'm letting them hands go. So don't do that, please. Right? And I didn't like the stress. Back then, you know, London was a rough place. And I didn't like the stress of dealing with drunk, wannabe tough guys and people on drugs and gangsters, sometimes real gangsters, but other times wannabe gangsters. We're going to come back and stab you up or shoot up the place because you didn't let us in. You know, all that. Some guys used to be thrill seekers. You know, some of the bouncers used to get a rush of adrenaline dealing with all the beef. I didn't, bro. Like for me, I used to get so stressed out. And when someone would threaten me or put hands on me, like I would just lose my ish, bro. Like the Incredible Hulk, I'm losing it. Because I'm not trying to disrespect anyone. I wasn't one of those bouncers on a power trip. None of that. Yeah, I'm being polite, I'm being cordial with people, but if you start to, just don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, bro, because I will go off. Yeesh. And that's one of the reasons I had to quit, because my temper was getting so bad that even on the way to work, I used to cycle to work back then, believe it or not. For some of the jobs anyway, when I was living relatively close to some of the places I was working, I would cycle. Other places, obviously, I'd use public transport. But on the way to work, I'd start switching on people, and that's not like me. Yeah? I get into like big arguments and altercations with people on the bus or when I'm riding my bike. And I realized that the job was doing it to me because I was feeling so stressed and constantly under threat all the time that it started seeping into my personal life, and I started becoming like really aggressive in my personal life. And I was like, nah, man, this ain't me. I don't want to be like that. Like, yes, I do have a temper, but generally I'm a laid back person. I'm a kind of fun, chilled, laid back guy. But that job brought out the aggressive aspect to me, which has always been there, right? Especially when I was a teenager, I was like very aggressive. But as an adult, I've always been more in a laid back, you know, fun vibe. But doing that job, nah, bro, it brought out the Incredible Hulk, and I didn't like it because it was only going to end in disaster for me, one way or the other. Either somebody was going to do me some serious harm, or I was going to do someone else some serious harm and go prison, and I didn't want to do that, so I had to knock that job on the head. Big up LCFC for the super chat. He says, best wishes, Hatman fantasy matchup, Johnny Fisher versus a prime Partridge, aka 100-0 on the hard road. John Partridge, that is. Okay, that's an interesting fantasy matchup. Big up LCFC. That's an interesting matchup, you know. I'm going to go with Johnny Fisher because of the fact that Johnny Partridge could not punch. I don't think he scored any stoppages, did he, in his whole career? So, yeah, I'm going to go with Johnny Fisher over Johnny Partridge. I don't know whether he'd knock Johnny Partridge out. Johnny Partridge did get knocked out a couple of times, but he also went the distance with some relatively useful guys. He beat Michael Murray back in the days. Michael Murray was a pretty tough journeyman. But I don't know. I'm going to say Johnny Bosch over Johnny Partridge. Yeah, Johnny Bosch over Johnny Partridge. Big up MRA for the super chat. It says, would you pick anyone at 140? Any era against Bud? 140? The only person off the top of my head that would be in that conversation would be Mayweather. I might even pick Mayweather over Bud at 140 and maybe lean towards Bud at 147 over Mayweather. How's that for sitting on the fence and copping out? Big up MRA. Charles B says, just clocked. Mrs. Fury is called Paris Partridge. Oh my gosh, yes. Tef Grizzle. He says, Hatman, have you seen Ghostface Killer's son? Yes, I have. It's wild, right? Now, there was someone, I don't know whether it was on Patreon or whether it was on a YouTube live years ago, but there was someone who put forward a theory, right? A hypothesis, a claim that the reason you get these like masculine tough guys that end up with sons like that, this theory is that those guys were, I don't even want to use the word here, but those guys were still smashing the woman when she was pregnant, but they were smashing the back door, not the front door, you know, like that. And so the theory is that when a guy does that, when he smashes the back door when a woman's pregnant, that can result in, yeah, the son coming out that way. I've got no idea whether it's true, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it was true. It wouldn't surprise me, bro. Because there are some guys out there who are savage. Because that's a savage thing to do, isn't it? Like, it's crazy, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like, what a savage. Like, imagine a woman's heavily pregnant and the guy still wants some and he's like, nah, man, we're, you know. Somebody gonna have to give up some booty. And it's just that simple. That's my Fleece Johnson impression. Somebody gonna have to give up some booty. And it's just that simple. When I see one, I tell them like this here. I like you and I want you. Are we gonna do this the easy way or the hard way. The choice is yours. And it was always yes. Felice Johnson, the booty warrior. There you go. Booty. You know the way he talks. Was more important than water. It's more important than food. Charles B says, Ghostface is living most men's nightmare. That's a whole fact. BG London says, Boondocks crazy episode. Yeah, crazy episode, but the guy that it was based on is even crazier than the episode. Like, the episode really couldn't do Felice Johnson justice. Because Felice Johnson is so damn wild. I don't know why YouTube is flagging all these comments now. What the hell's all that about? It's like flagging loads and loads of people's comments. I'm having to unflag them. Someone just said, get the likes up, and somehow YouTube has flagged it. Like, what in the world is YouTube doing flagging these comments? Literally, someone just said, get the lights up, and YouTube flagged it and wouldn't show the comment. No idea what's going on there. Warren says, why would you want to do that to your woman who's pregnant? Because some guys are savages, bro. Like, one of the things I realized, is that some guys are sexual sadists. Yeah. And there's more of these kind of guys out there than you would think. Like, unless, I don't want to go too deep into it here, but yeah, some guys are sexual sadists. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Shout out to the Green Entity. He says, I actually see Clarissa Shields bash up Amir Khan due to his chin and lack of strength, not even trolling. I don't see it. Clarissa Shields, has she even had a knockout ever? I don't see it. And Khan's lack of strength, yeah, there's a lack of strength there relative to men. Not relative to a woman. So I don't see, I mean, this is the same Amir Khan who beat Marcus Maidana. So if Amir Khan legitimately beats Marcus Maidana, are we really saying that Clarissa Shields beats him? I don't see it. Amir Khan, one of his better performances was against, what's the New Yorican guy called? Collazo. Collazo gave Ricky Hatton all he could handle. Collazo gave Andre Berto all he could handle. Amir Khan handled Collazo with relative ease. Collazo was a strong guy. So Collazo couldn't bash up Khan, but Clarissa Shields could. I don't see it. Personally, I don't see it. But Clarissa Shields would love to read your comment, Green Entity, because she would definitely agree. She would love to read that comment. She's been talking about fighting Keith Thurman for the longest. Meanwhile, she's getting flattened by random journeymen in sparring. You know, the one guy who decided not to hold back his punches, and she gets flattened by a random journeyman, you know. Shattered her whole world. Because if you ever see that sparring footage of Shields against men, it's so clear that they're holding back. It's like nothing in the world could be more obvious when you're watching those men spar Clarissa Shields than they're obviously holding back. You can see it in their moves and everything. And because they're holding back, it helps to perpetuate her delusion. BG London says, Papoose is a wife again. There you go. That might be comment of the night. Papoose is a wife again. Yeah, someone has wifed up Papoose again. Shields wifes up Papoose. First it was Remy Ma wifing him up. Now it's Clarissa Shields wifing him up. It's like that line from Drake. What did he say? You shout out to my boss, bees, wifing ninjas. I'm using substitute words here, folks. Was that track where he was dissing Meek Mill? Shout out to my boss, bees, wifing ninjas. Yeah, so you got Clarissa Shields wifing Papoose. Back to back. Yeah, that was the name of the track. Warren Williams says, I had to check her record. She's got 3 KOs out of 17 wins. Poet says, have you seen Kovalev's wife? I don't think I have. Yeah, that's right, BG. Papoose is always in a wife position, not only because he likes these masculine women, but also because he's always with women who earn way more money than he does. It's a weird one, isn't it? KD says Drake is Rainbow. Is he? I've got no idea. I don't follow Drake like that. Linkage says, was Rem making more money? I reckon so, yeah. Papoose was never like a big money-making rapper. Okay, someone's saying, whoa, when I saw Kovalev's wife. All right, I gotta look this up now. Is it something crazy? Let's have a look at Kovalev's wife. Okay, I'm seeing his wife here. Okay. Why are you saying whoa? She looks like a kind of just ordinary looking, presumably Russian woman. Do you find her to be like extremely attractive? Is that what it is? I mean, she's not ugly, but just looks like a pretty just standard Russian woman in the pictures I'm seeing anyway. Okay, saying she's bigger than Kovalev. Or maybe it's a different wife. Because this one is definitely not bigger than Kovalev. This one's much smaller than Kovalev. Unless she's, I don't know. The one I'm seeing is not big at all. Or is this a new wife? This one says Kovalev's wife, Natalia. There's pictures of him and her. She's clearly shorter than him. She's slim. So, was it an ex-wife or something that, the one that you saw? I don't know. Or has Natalia gained a load of weight since these pictures? I got no idea, but the one I'm seeing in these pictures is shorter than him, slim. So I don't know. All right, peeps, I'm going to wrap this one up. I'd like to shout out each and every one of you for joining this conversation. You know the routine. Special shout out to all those who donated via Super Chat. I'm going to try to get all your names in here. They were Matt Borgerson, Divans, Ocean Blue, Wes Carlos, DJ, Filthy Casual Boxing, John Hendricks, Real, James Clifford, Bobs, Gaz, United, Simon Brandy, Luke Elgar, Charles B, of course, John, Green Entity, FIFA Junior, Grizz D, Atavistic Intellect, Ali, big up Ali, Where's Carlos, Matt Borgerson again, Joshua Hooker. I think I got Grizz D as well. Bobs, Green Entity, June Sports 13, MRA, Joshua Hooker, Hyro Protagonist, James Clifford, LCFC, and big up D-Man with a final super chat. Much appreciated. Big up every time. And thank you to all of you for joining in the conversation. Until next time, take care, be good, and have fun over the festive period. I'm sure most of you got time off work. Spend it wisely. I'll catch you on the other side. I'm out.